Did you? All right, I'm walking you guys in. Can you hear me?
Good luck. Yep.
Thanks.
Matt, unless you all have something else, I'll go ahead and depart here in a minute. I just didn't want to be rude and just not show up.
Not taken as rude. You're all good.
Are we back on? Okay, we're back out of closed session. Joey, you want to read the motions?
I certify that only the items mentioned in the motion to enter closed session were discussed except for the
Economic development.
Economic Development Authority of the Nancock.
Basically ran out of time, people. Okay. All right. Can you call the roll, please? Second on this.
There's no second.
Oh, not the second. It's not a motion, is it? No, certification. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Debbie.
That's okay. Councilmember Brockmeyer,
Here.
No. Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
Councilmember Berger,
Yes.
Councilmember Holdren,
Yes.
Councilmember Marino,
Yes.
Councilmember Knott,
Yes.
Councilmember Oswald,
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
I don't vote.
Okay.
All right, well, back into public session, and now we're gonna talk about the performance pavilion operating guide. We were in discussion with our attorney about, we're talking about setting up a special use permit. Most of the talk was about how to do that. We weren't discussing directly, we weren't discussing the actual performance guidelines. We were just discussing how we go about the procedure, how to do that. It's a little bit, there's some difference of opinion about how to proceed, but I think we're on the right track. We're just trying to get everything legal. So I think what the consensus is that we're going to require, a special use permit that in that zone. The school is zoned as a special, read that out again for me, Matt. The name of the zone, giving a little history of it.
It's recreational and community facility.
Yeah, it's a cultural, recreational, and community facility zone. It's the separate 10-acre zone just around the school. It was changed, 10 or 11 years ago in the code.
22nd of 2008.
It was, and we changed it from recreational to that, and unfortunately, it was not recorded into the code.
The online code.
Online code. So it has been passed, but it's never been recorded. So we are, I think the council has agreed that we're going to create change the zoning to allow for a operation of a performance pavilion with a special use permit. Is that correct, council? Everybody? Yeah. All right. So that's how we're going to, and so we've been going over the guidelines, and the consensus is still unsure about whether we're going to, if we're going to write the specific criteria in them, or we're just going to we need to talk about that. I was unclear about how we came out of the meeting there's two ways to go about it. We can just allow for a special use permit and to operate a performance pavilion, and then they would apply for a special use permit. And then we would put all the restrictions that we've been discussing over the last 4 months in that special use permit. Or we change the zoning, kind of what we do with Airbnbs, and that we have the requirements already written in the zone, what you're allowed to operate under, and then they would just have a special use permit for that. So there's two ways to do it, if you understand. Am I clear about that?
I think so.
It's a little confusing, and that's what we're talking with the attorney a lot about.
It's to know ahead of time, if you apply for a special use permit, what you're applying for.
Right, it would all be written down in this section. There's some, I was unclear about the negatives about doing that. Did you have any?
I didn't have any. It was just a question of which way to go.
So we need to decide, but we don't have to make that actual decision now. But we do need to decide on we need to move on to talk about the actual specific guidelines. So That's how it's gonna, if we change the zone, there will be a planning commission meeting to change we have to have that anyway, to change the zone to allow for a special use permit. So there's gonna be several public hearings still in the future. So, without ado, let's get on to the, I think that we have several different guidelines that we're looking at, and, Matt, released the last one, that our consensus. So, how do we want to start on that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
In the guidelines that you sent to us, Matt, there was a question of a special use permit somewhere in there. And I wanted to know if the term of the special use permit, or that's maybe something council should discuss.
Well, that was a question.
The term,
That is part of the guidelines, was that the special use permit would be reviewed annually and possibly adjusted, but the special use permit itself has the term of all others, which would be either a requested change in use or a change in ownership or tenancy. So if the school leaves and stops leasing from us, the permit dies.
okay, but the initial issuing of the permit, and just, I think you have when on the homestay. How, is there a term on that permit? 3 years?
Well, it's 3 years. It's reviewed by council to make sure they were in compliance, but the permit stays active.
Okay.
So
for as
it doesn't
long as-
go away.
Okay, for as long as,
Yeah, as long as the same ownership, a change in ownership kills the permit.
okay. thank
So,
you.
so if they operate under the guidelines, there's really no reason to, so, there's no reason to have a term on it, yeah.
Correct.
If they're operating under the guidelines,
Correct.
correct, yeah.
Plus, they're investing quite a lot of money in this, and
Right.
they don't want to see a 1 year investment.
So there would be no
and have
1
that
year,
go
no
away.
sunset clause would go away after 1 or 2 or 3 years.
It would go away.
Unless they violate their,
Unless they violate, at which
Yeah.
point you can rescind the special use
But it
permit.
never goes away, it's just there. The special use permit is there, goes with the use of the property.
the owners of
For
use.
as long as it's.
As long as
the
they're-
Guidelines,
As long as they're there and they meet the guidelines.
thank you.
All right, so there, do we want to go, so there were some questions about the pavilion, I don't know how we want to go through this, just line by line.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and depart unless you all need anything else from me tonight.
You're still there, Eric, this is our attorney, Eric, from, Richmond, yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much. Take care.
So-
Thank you.
All right, so I think we were, we need to, so are we going to, question is, are we gonna draft specific guidelines to put in the ordinance, or are we gonna?
We haven't discussed it as a whole
Right.
anyway, and maybe this is a time to throw it all out there and see what.
Well, we can go through the guidelines and discuss how
So we can
we,
do it as a restriction to the permit,
Right.
or in addition to the code.
we still need
it's
to
the
do it.
Same guide.
We still need to do it, yeah, okay, so anyway, any issues with the,
I would just like to make a statement before we go into all this. Okay, I would like this body here,
Microphone.
I would like, you hear me now?
Can you hear?
I would like this body and everyone in this room to consider what Cape Charles has learned and is now going through. Take that into consideration as we go forward with a schedule of events that it's an every weekend kind of thing. I think that we need to understand that. And I do think that if we considered doing the performances in daylight hours, like say 1 to 8 p.m., there would be no backlash. There was no, of all the people that I've spoken with, it's the time of day and evening that causes the dissension. So the upside of having the pavilion in use during those hours, like say 1 to 8, that's up to, I mean, that's arbitrary. But the school would be open for artists to show their wares. The town businesses could benefit, including restaurants. Noise pollution would be minimal or minimized because it wouldn't be at a time when people are annoyed by the sounds. And to take into consideration the daylight provides a sense of security and violations would be clear and remediable. So I'm just saying, think about the time of day as well as everything else that we're looking at here. And maybe this wouldn't be such a big sore. Thank you.
All right, well, let's go back through these are the things that Matt collated from the last meeting. And so pavilion uses, part one, does anybody have any concerns with any of that? These
Which
were
one are we going with?
the guidelines that Matt in the agenda. And then we can compare them to the other ones, but I think everybody's had a chance to look at the different ones, and if you have comments, I'd like to have them. So the pavilion uses, this is mostly of defining what's there. And does somebody have a copy of what everybody, somebody put copies down. Does anybody have any problems with that?
Just a question. On the last one, the public unsupervised use described as no scheduled event during which time the public may walk on, climb on, and use in any way that does not involve amplification. So is that saying that the town is not restricting it, but the school may opt to? The school may opt to say that you can't go on the pavilion stage without permission.
Well, yeah, I think that makes sense to me. I think that, yeah,
There would be time restrictions already.
right, yeah,
established.
but I mean,
Sunset. Or dusk, I think
Yeah.
dusk is the way.
yeah, I don't think they want to use it as a
What
place.
line are you on, Sarah?
One E.
Okay. Yeah, that, anyway, that was just a little bit wild. Walk on, climb on.
Yeah, I don't.
I think the purpose of that was that, the school's gonna be closed, there isn't supervision, it's not anybody there. But there's not gonna be a fence or a gate around this thing, so, people are gonna walk on it, little kids are gonna stand up on the stage and sing. And that's just what's gonna happen.
Right,
So that's what I meant by public unsupervised use.
so we're not regulating that.
No, it's not, that's what I was getting at.
They could regulate if they want, yeah.
Yeah, that's their
Right, right,
liability.
okay. All right,
I got something on that.
okay,
That if regarding the unsupervised use, we might want to put something in there that some just general things not allowed, like defacing, damaging, or whatnot, so that there isn't not everything is just acceptable under unsupervised use.
Well, this is in the agreement between the school and the town. I don't think the school would be defacing anything.
Oh, it's a school? Okay, I thought it was for the public was allowed to use it.
The document that we're working on is the document between the town and the school.
Mhm.
And so, sorry, I keep bumping that. I don't think the town needs to tell the school not to deface the pavilion.
I'm not suggesting that. It seems there's a couple of things in this that we're telling the school that the public should have the right to be able to utilize this or have access to it or have access to the events. And I'm just making sure that the public's right doesn't go way beyond what should be acceptable.
Well,
If it's not necessary, then it's not necessary.
Yeah, I think
I trust you on that.
I think this is a definition, I don't think, yeah.
And we trust the school to manage the school,
Yeah.
so we can trust the school to manage their building that's at the school.
Okay, I'm misunderstanding that. I apologize.
Okay, okay.
Going down?
No, wait a minute here. Okay,
Okay.
I need more with one here, okay. Two, pavilion events and sound restrictions. Any comments on that one? I know there were some comments from, about that. There's nothing about decibels here.
Yeah, that's where,
Yeah.
Org came forward and put their guidelines together, and I wove them all together with this one document. They want to use decibels as a metric for measuring. I use wattage because of performers But we're gonna learn a lot more from Jeff Daking, who's gonna come in on the 26th and talk to us about sound. So I would just urge us to wait,
Table that until then.
yeah.
Yeah,
Has
that,
anybody agreed on that?
I was
Well, I
gonna
think
suggest that.
that would be easier. This seems like this would be an easier way to measure it, because you're measuring the watts per channel and
Right.
not a device somewhere in town, which you're gonna get more variability with.
That's why I did it, was performers measure their speakers by wattage, so you can sit there and say, look, you've got two speakers of 1,000 watts each, that's 2,000 watts. That's over the limit for this type of performance, that's it. I don't have to stand up at the building with a microphone in my hand and hope I'm in the right spot.
Can I ask a question there? Because it says here, concert, an amplified musical performance in which more than two speakers or no more than 1,000 watts per channel are used, in no case greater than 15,000 in total. And then you say in the next line that a typical touring band uses 80 to 400 watts. Why are we looking so high?
80,000 to 100K.
Oh, okay,
We're a quarter of what a touring band would be.
400,000 watts.
400,000, sorry.
Thank
That's
you.
my bad.
Okay,
No, that was me because I didn't get.
any other questions about two? We're all set. Okay, three, when can the pavilion be used? High season is defined as May 1 through October 31st. Any problem with that?
Is there a no season?
Oh,
I mean, this becomes a 24
Well, there's a low season, it's defined as November.
low, but I'm saying there's no time when it's no.
Well, that's what we're gonna talk about, yeah.
And I mean, should there not be
I don't-
some pause?
Well, they get
Why?
on to it more. good.
Winter is gonna happen, so that'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
So that the sections kind of intermesh.
right,
So in the allowable schedule in the next section, it says no concerts in low season. But there may be other kinds of things, as we discussed, Christmas caroling or
yeah.
that kind of thing, that would not fit the category of concert, but would still be something happening in the facility.
Right, right.
I'm concerned
Easier
that we are conceding that this is going to be a venue used every weekend or every other weekend over the high season, and people who actually live in the area are not being considered for the sound and for the time. There's no consideration being given for them.
But we're just defining high and low season right now. We haven't
Okay.
begun the second session. We haven't gotten to the allowable schedule yet. Let's,
Okay, thank you.
okay,
I agree with the high and low season.
yeah, that's all, yeah, and that's
Just
just,
I had no problem with
Just to
that.
chime in with the differences or the variances, the cost used 1 month fewer than that. The school came forward with their is June to September. So I'm just putting it out there that we and org agreed that cost put something in there that was actually more restrictive.
thank you. No single performance can last more than 6 consecutive hours. Is that,
The Ford came forward with 4, and the Haas came forward with no performance. Actually, what they said was the average performance length is 2 to 2.5 hours. So it,
Why the 6 though in here? I mean, that's way longer than any performance.
Yeah.
well, if you wanted to have a jazz festival, it started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and.
But you said
Yeah.
Foss asked for 2 to 2.5 hours, is that correct?
no, all they said was that the average performance goes 2 to 2.5 hours. So I took that and put it here because they actually didn't put a parameter for the longest performance.
And org asked for,
Org was 4, we were 6. I mean, that's pretty close.
okay, so if we, this is blending in here, but if we say all performances must cease by 9:30. 6 hours is 3:30 to 9:30.
Are we worried about something during the day that we said we're not as worried about that, correct? Yeah. I mean, if
It's a
something,
long time.
well, I mean, if somebody, yeah, I know what you mean.
It's never a consistent 6 hours of
No.
performing. Anyway, there's an act comes on, act goes off, and then
Well,
there's a
it says
break
no
and a blah,
single
blah. So
performance.
there's, right, it's no single performer.
Well, that's a question.
Or no single event.
No, not.
It's not saying that every event will be that long either. It's giving the opportunity for there to be a possibility of an event that would take place like that.
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning.
It's not saying that every event is going to be that long. It's just providing the opportunity for there to possibly be an event that would fit inside of that.
yeah. Yeah, they're gonna run into that.
Right, this is just longer, so if the concert wants to go longer.
And then no more than one performance allowed per day. So that is,
One event.
is that an event? I mean, that's like, a performance.
Yeah, that's your idea of a jazz festival is a perfect night, because that wouldn't work. If we say one performance per day, I come up and play my saxophone.
What about an event? One event?
Well, that's what I think that's, plus I can't imagine having two events in one venue in one day.
No, no.
Yeah.
I don't think band and a band.
Well, that's why I said, maybe we say no more than one event is allowed per day.
Yeah, an event would be like
I agree.
a pre-band and, yeah, right, yeah.
All right,
Change that word to event. Okay.
got it.
All right, now we're getting down into allowable schedule. No more than 6 concerts per high season.
Define concerts.
Okay.
Well, I thought we talked about having two per month was what we agreed on.
Right.
We did.
So why are we restricting to 6 per high season?
Because it's 6 months.
I think what we said.
We said 2 amplified.
We said 2 per month.
2 amplified per month. And 6 per season in the first 3 years. And that in the first 3 years part fell off, I think.
That's from our last work session.
That was from the last time.
No more than 2 amplified performances per calendar month. And what was the other?
No more than 6, the amplified concerts per season in the first 3 years. As a easy in,
Because they're gonna go higher than that in the next.
Right. We
section.
differentiated between concerts and amplified performances.
Yes.
And that's where the difference is we have 1 concert per month as the maximum, but no more than 4 amplified performances. So if North Street comes out and has a microphone on it, that's an amplified
Oh,
performance.
okay.
Yeah, so that's where I differentiated.
All right, so I'm confused then. So no more than 6 concerts. A concert is, where is it?
No, amplified. I think we're still talking about our Sarah.
Concerts.
Read it again.
concert is 2A, the amplified music performance.
Oh, so a concert is more than an amplified performance.
Yes.
Right.
Much
Okay,
more.
I was thinking it was the other way around. Okay.
And you said no more than 6 amplified in the first 3 years? Is that what you?
No, 6 concerts.
Oh,
And I would like to eliminate any time frame, like in the first 3 years, the second 3 years, and that until we get there.
Yeah, I think we agree.
You're gonna be reviewing the permit anyway.
Yeah.
Just
So-
make-
Right, but
So
I
it
don't think
takes
if
strike
I did
less.
any language up to that point.
So if they're allowed 6 concerts in the high season and then 4, and then 1 concert per calendar month.
Yeah, so they get one concert per month and none in the low season.
Okay.
Is that on here?
I'm not
Yeah.
sure I agree
Yeah.
with none. I could see a Christmas concert.
Well, the concert is a band with amplification and everything else. Having a microphone on a kid singing Jingle Bells is an amplified performance. It is not a concert.
But let's say you had a symphony come. A Christmas performance.
I guess the way I look at it is they'd have to have 10,000 watts of speakers in front of their tuba. So I don't know. I mean, I love the idea of having, the orchestra come, but I just can't see them as amplifying through that many watts.
Okay.
That's the reason I I mean, but you know, at the end of the day, this is yours.
Maybe more realistic might be like a St. Patrick's Day band, you know, after the parade,
Right.
you have a concert over there, some Irish music.
Well, they're not that super amplified. Yeah.
Maybe we find out.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this, I mean,
Well, it seems like we might have.
that's more realistic than,
We'll
you know,
still
a
confused
warm day
about
in
this.
March. It's 80-degree day in March.
Okay, so max of 2 concerts in the low season?
Holidays are in the low season.
Yeah.
Oh,
We could just leave it for calendar month and do amplify for calendar month.
Yeah, you can just make no restrictions in low season.
Low or high, if there's a town event.
Make no restrictions in low season.
Right.
You just leave it on the month.
Other properties.
12 per year.
Who's gonna be sitting out there in June?
Well,
well,
but you get 12 a year, so you know, want to do them all and you change your mind on it, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, no, 2 per month,
I,
per calendar
yeah,
month.
so you can't do it.
I think it's overly restrictive to limit the no concerts in low season, but that's fine.
Well, Sarah said we agreed to no more than 6 concerts in the first 3 years in the last session.
We discussed it.
We just dropped-
That's
We
a
agreed to
good
it.
point.
We
Yes.
dropped the 6.
There seemed, that was one of the things that seemed to have consensus, but I may be, you know, that,
Am I wrong in thinking we didn't distinguish between concerts and amplified events when we discussed it previously?
I don't think
what we
did.
were,
I didn't.
my understanding of the focus in the previous session was on the big concerts. And that the other things, the orchestra, the North Street Playhouse, and dance group, a storytelling festival, whatever else, would be in the other events without as much limitation.
I guess I'm not getting, because I don't really understand the distinction in sound between a concert and an amplified event, I guess is what we're saying.
Yeah, wattage come from the speakers.
Yeah, but we're gonna talk about that in 26.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the difference between Johnny Moe when he's geared up and the sound level when the North Street Playhouse did Stronger Than Steel in the Square.
I think another distinction is a performance is 2 or fewer speakers.
Right.
Concert's gonna have more than 2 speakers.
Those big booming things.
More than 2 speakers.
So can we say,
So performance could maybe be a movie. That's being shown with 2 speakers.
And like you said, that's amplified because you
And
can hear
amplified,
that,
it's a performance.
right, and you can hear that across,
That's all right, yeah.
across the way because
That's
it's.
an example maybe of a performance. That's the concept.
All right, so do we want to wait until we get more stuff from Jeff about the sound, and then we can, the planning commission's gonna have to look, you know, we're narrowing down on this, but I think we need a little bit more work, okay?
would the council be agreeable to say no more than 2 concerts in the low season? That's not a requirement to have any, but it opens the option to do something, as Ray was saying, in conjunction with St. Patrick's Day or
Well, what does council feel about that?
whatever else is that.
I think I feel more comfortable with 1 per month than low season.
Well, that's more.
That's the same as,
That's 6.
the high season is 1 per month.
Yeah. So you just
So-
continue that all year long.
So what I was, so since there seems not to be an appetite, I mean, there seems to be an appetite to have a time when there really is less going on, I was suggesting 1 or 2 across the whole low season.
Concerts.
It-
Okay,
Amplify.
or
No.
amplified.
Consort, the noisy one, yeah. Yeah, you gotta think, you know, rock band concert, it's a little, it's a little bit confusing.
Concert is an amplified musical performance.
Yeah, with a lot of watts, yeah, a lot of noise, more noise than an amplified, if you think would be the other way around, but it's not, yeah. Wait a minute, am I
Yeah,
wrong?
this needs a lot. We're just delving into it.
All right, well, maybe we need to. Let's. We haven't reached a consensus on that.
No,
No,
let's hear about the noise levels and then come back to it on the 26th.
All right, all performances must cease at 9:30.
I think it should be 10.
I would go with 9:30.
9 o'clock.
Okay, well,
I go at 8 o'clock. No.
Maybe, better way to say, all concerts must cease by 10 o'clock. A performance, no amplification may go. Maybe, I don't know, could be a differentiation there. Concerts, what's gonna disturb more people, be louder, so. If you have something like a private event or a performance, no amplification, perhaps that could go. Be a later.
Thinking you should end everything because of noise and over carrying, sound carrying. 9:30 is pretty wicked as it is.
Considering there's houses right across the street from it and neighborhoods there,
Exactly.
9:30 is.
Well, but remember that the positioning of the pavilion
We'll see that.
is
It was,
designed to make use of the school building to prevent it from coming into the neighborhood.
you know, that's not going to happen, right? You know that.
In,
It's a buffer perhaps, but you know it's not going to stop the sound.
Brandon's trying to step in.
And
okay,
it's
in the,
there, that only goes one direction, not the other direction.
Brandon,
in the height of summer, that eliminates the opportunity for movies down there due to it not being dark enough and long enough to start the movie.
we could have non-amplified or things that weren't concerts.
Like performance.
Performances could operate later, but not concerts, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, listen.
Well, we're not getting anywhere here. Well, so anybody, Ray, your 10 o'clock is our view or what?
9:30 or 10 is fine, you know.
9:30
For concerts.
For concerts.
No, not, okay, all right.
Did you just pass me right by?
Well, you already said 9 and, yeah,
Second.
no, I do what you want. Okay. Brandon, do you have a time frame?
I'm good with 9:30 or 10. If you need me to narrow it down?
No, it's we'll get some public, okay. This one is, no more than 4 amplified performances per calendar month. I think we agreed on that one.
We already discussed it.
Greater than 50% of amplified performances must be free and open to the public.
I don't get that.
I don't understand the rationale for that. Where did that come from?
Because that's putting a burden
To have one.
to have a lot more things going on.
Right, you might have to charge more for your actual ticketed events to pay for the
Yeah.
free things.
And why not? Yeah, why do we even, why is that even in there? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Because somebody said that it was public property and they didn't want to restrict it and they wanted to be able to go up and sit down and listen to it.
Does anybody agree with that?
If they want to take it out, take it out.
They still say,
Take it out.
they said, and they are.
You want me to start naming names?
No,
No.
Okay.
no.
Yeah, what are you talking about there?
It was a comment.
Unamplified.
It did not come from the council.
No,
No.
Okay, all right. Is anybody interested? Everybody want to strike that one?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. No more conversation on that one. The next one, I think, is the, I'd strike the last, 6 words on that one as well. It must be free to the public.
Oh, right, that whole line.
No, the first one, unamplified, have no limit for quantity. We're,
I really have a problem with that one. You're walking your dog and you hear something.
Or quantity of people.
an unamplified performance could be a play that doesn't have any amplification by the North Street Playhouse. You're gonna make them have it free?
No,
Yeah. I mean, you can have unamplified things that, Shakespeare reading can be or dance performance that doesn't have any,
okay.
yeah. I just don't think we should require it to be free.
Right.
All right.
And if This one seems to have its own separate timetable, time limit. So I would suggest that we have one bullet for timing.
Yeah.
And not put a separate timing entry in this last one.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right,
So you're taking out bus in by 9:30. Take that out.
Yeah, so
Because
that
we've already got.
item G ends at the comma. At the first comma.
okay,
No limit to quantity, what does that mean?
you can have as many unamplified performances as you want out there.
So maybe you can scratch the whole line then.
Yeah, right.
I can just leave it somewhere.
Well, it's probably good to
Clarify.
say so that there's not a question, but.
All right, parking and traffic, I'm not gonna go down each one of these. Does anybody have any specific comments about this?
Yes, I have one about C, no parking on private property. I would amend that with a comma following property unless allowed by owner of the property.
Right, I think people who go to a concert should be allowed to park at a friend's house.
Yeah. Is anybody?
Owner charging to let people park.
But I think that's fine, too.
I agree with the parameters here. A question I have is how in an agreement between the school and the town, that it can, what's the enforcement? Who's the, how does that play out? If somebody parks in the middle of the street, what happens?
Well,
The police are there. But, and G on that same line says the police may direct traffic or close any street at their sole discretion. That's very vague and kind of, what about the residents who live on that street? You're gonna just say this street is closed off? I don't think so.
Well, you also know that when a police officer's there, they wave through a local resident, so.
I like that's kind of.
Why would you close the street for parking?
Well, if they're through traffic, if we closed like that one street when we had the parade through traffic because people were trying to sneak in down, what street was that? Joins. So we closed that but local residents were allowed to drive in if they live down there, so we weren't stopping anybody.
So what streets are we specifically talking about here?
What joint?
Have we narrowed it down any or?
Well, that's why I said the police get to do that at their discretion. You know, they're responsible to administer and enforce parking. It's their job.
I have a comment about F also. Which reads by 10 a.m. the morning following the event, volunteers should patrol all parking areas to ensure any litter is removed. I would amend that to noon. I think 10 a.m. is a little early.
Also,
We think.
controlling all parking areas, that needs to be clarified. What are we talking, parking?
Designated.
But,
You want to call it event parking?
Yeah.
yeah, is that like all throughout town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you negotiate with the Methodist Church to use their parking lot, then I think you should be responsible to clean it up. But if you don't have any agreement with them and somebody just parks over there, are you gonna make them go clean up no?
Well, I would say if it's not event parking, then they would have no idea that somebody went in there and threw their trash.
Right, so yeah, so event parking would, so you'd have to have a agreement with off-site people, and then you'd be
Yeah,
responsible.
I think so.
I think
So, I
that's,
mean, it's one of the big complaints about the parades, or that up and down College, there's trash from all of the parade.
Yeah. Well-
Attendees, participants,
yeah,
so,
well, I think if
Yeah.
you volunteers show up the next day, yeah. Well, so you're gonna put the word event in there?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, alcohol, insurance and restrooms, anybody comment on any of that?
Nobody liked my grid of porta potties. I mean,
There was any event expected to attract more than 500 people require a PUP special use permit, provision use permit. Okay. So. And the number of potties required for the number of attendees is one restroom per 50, and then the next.
And then
tier
it scales up based on
250.
enrollee, and then it
You've
increases.
never
by-
stood in line.
Well, it also, I think, first of all, porta potties are, gender neutral. So yes, indeed, we have. So, but then it also adds an increase of 20% for, if there's alcohol there and that type of thing. So how long the event is increases the number, how many attend increase the number, and then if there's alcohol, it increases the number. We don't want anybody waiting in line.
Good work.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a provision use permit. What it does
Next
is it's
line
going to allow
tells you.
for council to approve an event that's over 500 people.
Yeah, because I've never seen any
No,
suggestion of
it's-
over 500.
no, I found that in one of the other town codes that has a venue like this. What they wanted to do was not just allow free reign for, I got 5,000 tickets. They want to say, okay, anything over 500, you need to come before us and talk about the event and what's going to be here.
That's good.
The school, they haven't weighed in the same thing.
No, this is just for us. So far.
Moving on down.
Has anybody, any other questions on alcohol, insurance and restrooms? Okay, security,
Alcohol served, let's see, non-amplified events with no alcohol served do not require separate security. Security should be at every event. And then you drop down to the police determine if backpacks.
So
Which-
if there's a puppet show. And there's 6 kids in the audience, you want them to hire a cop?
I want
we don't,
this,
That's my question. You said every event should have security, so I'm asking a direct
yes,
question.
and I'm gonna get right back to that
Okay.
and say, yes, I do believe so, because we live in a different world. And because the police department will determine if backpacks are permitted, they should never be permitted at any concerts or anything else anymore, ever. And it's just a time. Backpacks, coolers, and bags and other items should.
let's go back to A here.
But it's a combination of the both in terms of security.
All right, let's go one.
Go
thing at a time
ahead,
here.
Ed.
A, do we provide security for the ice cream social or kids movies?
No.
Okay, all right. So any comments, council, about that, about A? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, that sounds good. I don't even know about non-amplified performances. Are just non-amplified events, we're going through each classification, or we just,
No, it simply says non-amplified events with no alcohol served do not require security. So the ice cream social is a non-amplified
So, but
event.
you're
Yeah.
saying, so an amplified event, it's got your 2 speakers.
Well, that's down here.
With a kids movie going on, you're gonna have security?
That's a good question.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it says if over 100 attendees.
But not that one.
Maybe we should just strike that, because I think we have it covered in other places.
One,
Strike which, Cindy?
if
Eliminate.
100 persons, you should have security. What harm is it to have security
It's expensive.
visible?
It's expensive for one thing.
You're gonna deter people from having that.
Oh, I disagree. I think that if there's security, people will go, we're secure about that. It's a different world we live in.
It's gonna drive up the ticket prices.
Do-
Do you not go to the social, ice cream social because there's no security there? I mean, I don't think that enters into anybody's
Is
conversation.
that what we're talking about here? Just the ice cream?
Well, no, yeah, I mean, obviously.
It's all non-amplified
Movies,
events.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the movie is an amplified event. That is the point, but I mean, I don't know if is this a real concern? I mean, I agree that if they serve alcohol and there's no question we need security for things like that, but if we're gonna do, if the Playhouse is gonna go do, William Shakespeare out there, do we need security for that?
Where did we get the $80 per hour? Maybe that's the problem.
Their overtime rate.
Is that?
I was gonna suggest you put in something vague in case the overtime rate goes up.
Yeah. I mean, we could just put the overtime and employment costs. employment costs of overtime, okay.
Yeah. So we need some clarification here. Are we gonna?
Well, this is for 1 year, right? And then we get back and we redo it and we see how it goes. Am I correct?
No.
No, this
That's
is
the whole, that's
permanent.
what it,
Until we change early.
Well, but we can change it.
Well, it's,
So go with it and see if it works.
if you don't have a trial and a test period where you have benchmarks met and things reached or failed, then you're never gonna get this right.
oh, yeah. Well, you're not gonna know if you overkill it, if you over secure, you're not gonna know if that under security is working or not. So if you put security on everything, you're never gonna know if you don't need it, because they're always there.
Isn't that good?
Well, yeah,
I think maybe it's a non-amplified, maybe it's the number of people attending. Might be more of a consideration, but we addressed that earlier.
Yeah, well, I've got in here that says, one clearly identifiable security resource is required for every 100 persons in attendance. And then if over 100, one of those security personnel must be active police.
So, but then we're back to the ice cream social. That's more than 100 people, for sure.
Yeah, it's OBCA's event, not the schools.
So they have to
you wanna require them to have security?
How many security officers are gonna get torch this weekend?
No,
Those 500 bikers, wait, 600 people in attendance?
Some of them have radios.
is it possible to have, to do this as a, without putting so much, to say, look, security will be determined by,
Event.
Common sense.
by comments, the event and the town manager in connection with the police department or something, in terms of.
Yes.
And not,
That's a commissary.
and not put all this, restrictions on it, I know, that's my, just throwing that out there. I know I don't want to put it on mass decision, but, I mean, it is sort of common sense. But you don't need,
Maybe that's one of those we need to come back to.
we're just gonna go to the, we're not finishing this tonight, but,
I did have another question on item C in there. At any event where alcohol is served and an Hancock police officer must be on site. Would it, and there's a distinction that I'm not quite clear on. Is a deputy
The
acceptable, or does it have to be?
chief said on Hancock because they can arrest locally and they can enforce local ordinance.
Can you say that so we can hear, please?
They said that the police officer from Hancock can enforce ordinance and law, and they can arrest locally where a sheriff can only make an arrest.
So one of them has to be a town cop, others can be other.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So in short, our ordinances could not be enforced by a sheriff.
Correct.
This is an off-duty police officer that's getting overtime, or this is an on-duty police officer that we're assigning to this event?
Our officer would be on duty, being paid overtime likely. The
Okay,
sheriff would be off duty.
okay. I just wanted to make sure because if you're asking for an off-duty to come as subcontracted, they may not want to do that. So if we're doing it via the town, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah,
Okay.
And would this security be required to stay there the whole time, or was it gonna be sort of like music on the lawn where they come 10 minutes and leave? Just during the regular duty?
I think if I were paying them $80 an hour, I would want them standing there for the entire hour. They would not be part of the.
Yeah, well,
Patrol, they would be an additional hours.
I think that we need, I think that we need some more work on this.
Yeah.
Clarification there.
Well, I think we're, maybe we're just trying to be too specific about this, and then, we need to,
I would definitely strike out that because, I've never been to a concert where you're allowed to bring in backpacks, or bags rather.
And not only that, if you have the police officers checking those things searched upon entry? Are you gonna spot check? Are you gonna check everyone? And are those people
purpose
gonna
of
ever
bringing in a
get into the
backpack
concert?
or cooler or bag is bring in food and alcohol, and they're gonna have that for sale, right? So.
Potentially, but also are you gonna want chairs and blankets?
But you don't have,
I
but
mean, they're
back,
gonna be carrying something in as they go in, so.
And the chair that has a backpack, I think you have to let the law enforcement professionals handle their expertise with that.
Yeah,
they are permitted, and
I think
according to what the event is, like the jazz festival, you can bring in a cooler, you can bring in.
Yeah, let's
But I'm just saying it's the police are gonna stop people and start searching, and then they'll never get in. And they just should not be permitted. I agree with Joy at that point, they just should not be permitted.
What type of events are you from?
Jazz festivals in Newport, Rhode Island.
No, I mean, for bag,
Concerts,
like bags
amplifiers,
not to be allowed.
our categories.
So we need to.
Well, I was just thinking if they're selling alcohol,
We're talking about all events.
what are you bringing in? other than
Your
like-
chair, your
I'm-
Like the
blanket,
same thing about chairs.
but are you gonna, you're not gonna put your blanket in a bag to carry it?
But this line doesn't say, it
Doesn't say
says,
anything about
it
I don't think
it says police determine.
But
To
it's just one
search.
thought.
it's, I mean, it's.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Your
would-
purse to hold your money for your alcohol.
Into your armpit, you come in, you shake it out. That's what
Tell
you do
people
like
what they
at
can carry in
the
the car place
amphitheater.
when they see it back.
They require.
I carry it in a bag. When I take it to the school for something, I carry it in a bag, sorry.
I think Brandon's trying to comment.
I was just saying your purse to, I agree, your purse to carry your money to buy the alcohol. I think there's lots of examples where we just need to let the police make those decisions. I don't think we need to regulate that.
I know the school can regulate. it.
Well, they're not making the decision, they're making the decision whether to search it on entry.
I think we just, I think we got a lot of work to do on this one. And I think, yeah. Right.
Or we could. Just one other observation, or other items need to be limited and or searched on entry.
I just don't think we should say anything about it. Let them, you know,
I agree, let the police do their job.
yeah, let them.
What is,
We don't need to, we don't know the whole ins and outs of all this stuff, but then, yeah. I mean, I go to a lot of events around here then. Out in town, I'm not searched for anywhere. I go to Car Place, they had a couple events, and we didn't search people at, when we had Harbor Fest,
A little different world now.
No, not really, it's a few years ago. Oh,
Whatever, let's move.
all right, additional restrictions and requirements, comments on that?
oh, the hand delivered
Yeah,
pamphlets to all contiguous property owners, how much time in advance of the event is that gonna?
does that come from council?
no, they're coming from me because the neighbors might not read Facebook or,
They
they
put it on the town website.
and
And what are you defining as neighbors?
contiguous property.
Contiguous?
Yeah,
I think we should delete that. I think that's too onerous.
I didn't know that was happening. I didn't know there was a public hearing. I didn't know that there was, I'm telling you, I hear it all the time. They're not reading Facebook, they're not reading the website, they're not reading the paper, and then they tell me that they didn't know.
Why would you go to the website if you're not expecting to look for something? So it's true. You're not gonna go looking on the website every day.
No to
I'm
look
not
at
gonna
it.
check it out.
How many houses are we talking about?
I've got
These
the.
events, we don't need to be delivering it to hand.
Well,
You
how
think
many,
Or to be good enough?
how many?
Matt,
Talking about?
15?
No, we don't need to deliver it to hand.
Contiguous.
Brandon's
Not
trying to.
a flyer to say that it's coming to the neighborhood.
Brandon's trying to
Brandon.
talk.
does a door hanger suffice for hand delivery?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you may not be able to come in contact with the person, but if you leave something on their door for every event, that sounds reasonable.
Talking about amplified in concert.
For the events that it's required within the document. I'm not saying every event.
Yeah, right, yeah, okay. Well, what do we think?
If we actually get the website that allows people to sign up for email notifications, that could be a category of notification they want an automatic email for when something hit our website.
I know 3 people live on that street. They're old people. They don't use any of that. I'm totally serious.
Did we do this for other events? I mean, other things
It's a short-term rental.
Yeah, we do it for contiguous properties for any change in use.
Well, that's a state law. We have to do it, right?
But you know, I didn't say it, but it's still thoughtful. That's
It
what I'm
really
saying.
is. It really is. Yeah, yeah.
It's a nice thing to do.
It's
And
not
we-
gonna take-
we've been
Well,
accused
I'm
of
not gonna-
not being nice.
I don't have any, I mean, that's something.
Okay,
Who's gonna do it?
Yeah, that's the point.
volunteer.
It's probably true.
Volunteer, you made this. I said volunteers.
That would be you.
All right, so what are we, okay, so you're gonna collate this information. We're gonna hear,
So just one question, if we retain something about contiguous property owners, would it be either hand delivered or mailed? Postal
Yeah, I
mail?
just assumed walking up and down the street would be pretty easy. You know, that's all.
I have got an idea. Maybe they just put like
A sandwich board.
a sandwich board in front of the school property, and then all the
Right.
contiguous neighbors can see it.
There's a marquee in front of the
There's a
school.
marquee.
Use the marquee.
Yeah, that saves the time and energy in delivering those.
No one was saving myself walking up and down College Ave.
that's fine. I think that's a good thing.
All right. So you got a bit of a dance.
About D,
Okay, the-
D in that section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One,
Matt?
this whole thing's.
Matt,
You.
8D, is that the same penalty as any zoning violation?
That's the highest that I can charge.
What is the customary?
This is actually customary because it allows me to start at 100 and then I can escalate up and up and up. Oregon had put down the same penalty, but then added 10 cents per ticket. And I can't go over, first of all, I don't want to administer that, but I can't go over the state's limit.
Okay,
So
this is what we would do for any zoning.
it's for the same that we have for grass cutting.
No. You've got, there's various violations here, so somebody like has a parking violation that the school would not be responsible for.
You mean if I drove and parked
Like,
sideways?
no,
on
I
the
say
street?
some person that attends a performance. And they get a parking violation,
That's all on them.
but that doesn't count as one of these.
That's not a zoning violation.
That's not a zoning
Okay,
violation. That's
this says violating these guidelines, so it's not.
I don't know if it's of any necessity to know this, other than that reading the org document.
Hearing complaints about, people parking in the wrong
No,
spot.
that's the wording can get.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta have specifics.
Yeah, Brad?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. The reading the org document for the additional penalty, it was unclear to me whether it was 10 cents per ticket or 10% with a space between the per and the cent as a typo.
We can't do either one, right? Because it's.
I'm not saying we can't, I just was mentioning that I think it might be a typo in there.
Yeah.
It's- I read it as 1/10 of the ticket sales, but
Okay.
C, if a special use permit is issued based on these guidelines, which that's what we're talking about, right? The guidelines may be reviewed and possibly adjusted annually.
Yeah, I think that's what gives us the flexibility, but also the next part of the sentence says the special use permit has a term that stays with the owner and the tenant. So they don't have to worry about losing their permit. They might say, look, we're gonna drop this to 5 concerts rather than 6 or something like that.
And booking concerts and all of these things, that takes a year in advance. I mean, that's not just a notion. You do this, I mean, you can't even get the military bands here. Can't Can we? Because we have to have, so much lead time, so.
Sarah and I served on the Arts Council here, ACES, and yes, that answer is correct.
Yeah.
We schedule at least a year ahead of
You
time.
need
So
a lot of
that's-
lead time to get these things happening, so.
So that was in the last meeting, that was my concern with the thought that I was hearing, that the permit would be only for 1 year, because that wouldn't give enough runway to the planning to be able to know we can, okay, we can do up through X, but we, at the point where people are trying to be scheduled, we're not able to plan in terms of the school. So I like this wording.
But it still says that the guidelines may be reviewed and possibly adjusted annually.
Right.
So if we have a new council that gets elected next year, when none of us like, they don't like the pavilion, they can say, well, you only have one per month. I mean, that's,
That's.
Or one per year.
that's the
For one per year.
That's the flexibility.
Why would
That was my question. Who has this power to
Well, it
adjust
depends
it?
if we put it in as an ordinance,
Yes,
then they're grandfathered. It's just all there is to it. If we put it into the permit as a restriction, it's a permit that can get revoked by
but
council.
we can amend. the ordinance.
Yeah, you can,
Sure.
not
but
if
they would be grandfathered.
they're grandfathered, and you can't.
So what-
It's just like with the Airbnb.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I mean, they're talking about investing a pretty good amount of money in this, if they're gonna be put out of business after a year, that's gonna be a non-starter.
Right.
Yeah,
But Mr. Gregory did recommend special use permit that's best both for the town and.
he did not say anything about reviewing it.
Because this is brand new to us, and and guidelines are being set for a reason. And if we don't review this after a year and say that worked, that didn't, then we're at fault here, and this is going to affect this town for a very long time. So we better be sure what we're doing.
I think that's why he said then come up with the guidelines after the special use permit. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I think we don't,
Said you could
we
go
don't
either
apply
way.
for anything. So the school would apply on a special use permit theoretically following the guidelines that you've already found acceptable.
Right.
If they put in an application with something in there you don't find acceptable, you can deny the application.
You have to have guidelines in there to apply for a special use permit. If you don't know what you're applying for, why would you apply?
Well, my question is, if you apply, then the rules get changed after a year, that's not fair,
It's not, it would only be a change because something didn't work, and something went awry.
Well, but we're spending some kind of
Not necessarily.
yeah. I mean, it just could be a political change in the council, so it just doesn't like, performances, I hate to say it, that could be,
Oh, yeah.
okay, so anyway,
Yeah, I don't agree with the annually either. That's
Well,
just not feasible.
we need to work on it some, I think it needs to be somehow reviewed, maybe we can say what things can,
I'll tighten it up with.
obviously, security and parking, that can be reviewed, to me, that's reviewable.
But doesn't it come up, Fletcher, the same way, Mr. Mayor, pardon me,
Yeah.
doesn't it come up the same way that if there are calls from neighbors to say that this Airbnb is giving me troubles, and you have one violation or two calls, this is the same thing to say, listen, you need to fix this.
Well, but if there's a violation,
But going forward, we're not talking violations necessarily, we're saying what worked and what didn't work. Parking didn't work, security was okay, cleanup was failure, fix it.
Right.
Nobody's saying
Airbnb-
take the permit away,
Nobody's investing $500,000 in an Airbnb.
nobody's taking it away.
It could be restricted to such a degree that it would be as if it were taken away, and that's the concern.
Our Airbnb applies to many properties throughout the town. This applies to one scenario, just one. So the guidelines that we make, as Matt pointed out, if we go to ordinance, can be grandfathered in, just like with but we don't have that with the Airbnbs. They have to be renewed every year, right?
No, for 3 years.
3
3
years.
years.
And that's a-
Only 3 years on the brand new. ones.
Right, brand new, but the other ones are grandfathered in.
The 9 of them that were in existence, they're
Which
there
we
until they change ownership.
Approved 2 years ago.
Right.
Okay.
we could do something where you would have violation penalties and shutdowns for violating the too many of those penalties. But the 3-year review could start in the middle of the 3 years so that they could have the additional time to implement those changes, but still be able to plan
Yeah.
on future concert development.
You get a 3-year, because they're not gonna do anything in the first year. We're not gonna mill anything enough, I don't think.
Right.
All right, well, we got some more talking to do with that.
Yeah.
All right, is anybody,
The last one was a suggestion that a phone number be provided. Didn't think that was, I didn't see that.
I wrote mine first.
You were just for-
Yeah, I mean, they wrote their second. I think that's a perfectly fine idea.
you what now? I'm just.
Or put in to have a live person's telephone number that they could
Oh,
call
right.
during an event. I think it's a great idea, but I wrote mine before they submitted theirs.
All right.
Oh, I see what you're
Like
saying.
Yeah,
town hall.
yeah, I think that's a perfect number. Yeah. Give Debbie's cell number. Yeah, it's gonna be a concert,
That number.
laying on that propaganda.
Her backpack.
That bag, yeah.
All right, any other questions on, all right, all right.
We're gonna do floor plans.
Yeah, well, we're gonna look at, these are just some, we've got some floor plans. These are just some, this is just a conceptual thing and I'm.
Let's do it.
We're gonna talk a little bit about the channel going out.
Do you have a copy for me?
Oh, yeah, I just, this is where is it now? Back. This is an idea of the Zoom. This is not a specific floor plan, it's just a idea, the conceptual idea is what we're talking about. My thought for this is that we discussed, what we want to do in general, and sorry. I think we need to decide, this is not a specific, this is a floor plan, but there's 3 basic areas that we kind of divide, we all agreed to divide this building up in. There was the front, there's in the blue, and the walls, the interior walls could be moved, and then we have a restroom area that's in the orange, and then we have the back area that's a conference room, possible office. So we need, what are we gonna do with these areas? And we've had several different plans, and I haven't drawn any details, but so my thought is, what is to come up with some kind of consensus that we agree that we want to have some room in the front, and then we want, how many bathrooms do we want? We don't want to specifically say, where the doors are going to be, but do we want to have so many bathrooms? And we want to have an area in the back that we can give to some, that we can look at. So
Just a note, Brandon, I just texted a image of the
Yeah.
thing that Fletcher handed out.
Okay, thank you.
That you can see
Yeah.
the 3
And this is-
areas that he's describing.
this is meant to be a area, the areas of, there's 3 different areas we use, and we can move things, around.
Could you explain what front would be used for?
Well, that's the next, the front would be, we had talked about, first of all, Main Street, let me get this, Main Street sent you a little letter, they want me to read it out into the public record, but, let me do that first. Dear members of Town Council, over a year ago in Hancock Main Street, OMS advocated for public restrooms in the center of downtown. We applaud the Town Council's wise decision to acquire the Chandler building for that purpose. The OMS Board of Directors hopes that once the Town Council has determined the area required for public spaces, there will be adequate space remaining for OMS to establish an office with a conference room. An office in the Chandler building will locate OMS in the center of the district we serve, allowing existing and prospective business owners easier access to us and we to them. Having our OMS shingle in downtown center will raise awareness to prospective entrepreneurs that Hancock is ready and waiting to offer business assistance and support. This will strengthen our partnership with the town and its efforts to attract and retain businesses. Our Virginia Main Street liaison, Kyle Meyer stated, and I quote, "The key is program accessibility. So location, location, location. It is important to have offices that are downtown, walkable, and highly visible to tourists, residents, and stakeholders. The location should be mission compatible. The majority, if not all, of Virginia program offices are in downtown. Being located in downtown is mission compatible, and the location will best set up the organization for mission fulfillment, i.e. catalyzing reinvestment, creating jobs, and fostering pride of place, end quote. Virginia Main Street required OMS to have an office in order to qualify for designation. Historic and Hancock School allowed OMS to temporarily use the school's small conference room as an office and has a waiting list of prospective tenants eager to rent that space as soon as we relocate. OMS received a donation of furniture, which will fully outfit an office and a conference room, and we have designated funds for refurnishment of the office space in order to minimize costs for the town. Thank you for consideration of this request. Sincerely, Hancock Main Street Board of Directors.
And are they willing to pay the same rent they're paying?
That has not been discussed. They're just,
Okay.
yeah, I talked to them about that. So in light of that,
And what is that amount to
we're paying on,
250.
they're paying, huh?
$225,000.
$225 a month, yeah.
And that's pretty cheap.
And we respectfully request be considered, to use this space as a further amount of town support as one consideration that you can take up.
So we don't have to decide that tonight, but the question is, are we gonna create the front? So go back to the areas, the front room. We envisioned as a some people wanted to make a visitor center. I think we need to do, some homework and see what kind of visitor center we want. If we do, what kind of, is it gonna be an experience in Hancock area? I mean, there's a bunch of things we can do. I did a lot of talking to people, local towns. I called about 10 towns in the last couple of weeks, and very few of them, as small as we are, operate visitor centers. They're just basically none as small as we are.
They're not as cool as we are.
Well, the problem is visitor center, not gonna attract one person to your town. And once they get here, they can use it. And so, I mean, I talked to, what's the town that Matt Patsy was talking about? Kilmarnock, they do not have a visitor center. They're, they just can't have them one. The other problem is if people that have visitor centers, they have trouble staffing them. So we need to decide, what, if we want to do, I think we need to have a plan for the visitor center. We need to talk to tourism. How much is it going to cost? Can we afford to do that? Are we going to use, what are we going to do? Are there other options to add to that? A lot of towns, Urbana has a museum on the edge of town, and that's where you go, the visitor center, but their visitor center is located in the museum. The town owns the museum, but their hours are like, 3 hours, 4 hours a day, and they're not open on weekends sometimes. Everybody's different. So I think my thing is, if we want to do that, let's have some justification to present to the community, what the benefits of this are, what the cost is going to be, how we're going to do it.
We justified the purchase of the property
Well, I think it was more for,
to the town
well, that's
right
fine.
off the bat.
But we didn't do any research into it, and we know what we're going to do. We're just going to put some flyers in there and call it a visitor center. I mean, what are we going to do? I'm just asking for a plan.
Right.
That's what we ask for every other thing we're doing.
Right.
Cost is going
It's
to
a great
do
idea.
a cost, and what else can we do to make it a little bit more than a visitor center? An experience in Hancock. We're going to let artisans come in, and one end of it and have, paint and have a display or something. Are we going to highlight our artists, our restaurants? We're going to, there's a lot of stuff we can do. I'm just saying that if we want to do that, let's have some rationale by why we're doing it instead of it just that sounds like a good idea. Let's give it a try, because I talked to a couple of them and then no one, Berlin, they lucky to get 2 people a day in the off season. No one comes in.
Okay, because they're
N-
gallery asking me what.
Yeah, but how many people come in
And where to go,
February?
and where to go.
How many people are here coming in fact, you get maybe 2 people, I don't know. I'm just saying, I want some
It
rationale.
may not be a year-round brush, but
Well, the other option is you could decide so that if it doesn't work out, we could make it lease it out to somebody else.
exactly.
You have an office in
right.
front of the building.
Exactly right.
Right, so that it'd be a multi-purpose thing.
Um,
So, but
Mm.
some brochures or something that you were printing, walking tours and kind of things. Okay, so
Walking maps and, I've got part of our part of the app that we're getting has a kiosk that you can, touch the screen and have it tell the story behind what's there. There's other ways to have non-manned or non-staffed welcome center.
But there's no such thing as a welcome without a person. And
Well, that's
and
just,
that is not going to be a problem, because I will be personally in charge of getting the volunteer to be in that space. Because I've already talked to a number of people who would be willing to do it on a regular basis.
well, you would be going against the current of most every town, because they had a lot
Mm.
Some other towns.
New Bern, North Carolina has a manned visitor center as well as an addition to an unmanned visitor center that they make work. And their unmanned visitor center is similar to the size of this facility here.
Close to the same size as us.
But this
It's
is,
not, but they have a nice location that we could take that idea from and scale it to our size instead of just saying that it doesn't fit us.
That's fine.
we haven't even given it an opportunity, or this is the first we're saying, let's do a plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And
I agree with you.
should really get to it. But I suggested a long time ago with the visitor center was an overflow of phone calls from the town office to that place. Because I call and I get put on hold, or I call and I get an answering machine, and I've done it a number of times.
Well, who's gonna answer the phone? The volunteers. Volunteer, what are they gonna know about the town operations?
That's numbers one.
I just wanna hear a plan. That's fine. I think if you have an idea.
Do you have staff issues in, do we have those taxes and all those things? Do you need another body? We talked about, I also suggested that this be a paid position. And
Then I need a budget and
and exactly.
We didn't fund that.
It's not
didn't
my-
fund that.
It's not my welcome center. I am just an advocate here because I see it every day when people come into the gallery, that this is a very, very important part of welcoming people to Onancock. You're doing all this tourism push.
Well, once they get here, they're here already. I would rather spend more money on attracting people here. Yeah, but that's my opinion. Yeah.
Okay,
But I mean, I've done a lot of homework. I've talked to a lot of towns. I've
I
feeling
just
that,
talk to the people who come to the
well,
town.
that's the problem. I think you need to justify, you need to see what other towns are doing. And I'm not saying we don't need that. I think maybe we can just make it a little bit more than just an experience in Hancock thing, something a little different. We need rationale, we
Okay.
need budgets, we need a reason why we're doing it instead of it just feels good. That's my take on it.
Will you take care of that, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, okay,
I voted for this, to purchase this building.
right,
For what, 165,000? Because we need bathrooms in town.
right.
Our bathrooms are humiliating.
Welcome center.
So I personally am a strong advocate of 3 accessible bathrooms. You mentioned at one time, Matt, that the front room rented for $700. I have no problem with renting it again, if we can bring in some revenue. The front of the visitor center. I'm with the mayor. I don't see much use for it, but whatever. The Main Street in the back, I say let them use it. They bring good things to town. Let them have a secure place where they can put their papers and posters up and everything they need. And that's it. I don't really see the purpose of the front in today's world.
It would help emphasize maybe what Main Street is doing. If Main Street's trying to encourage the town and all the pushing of the advertising, then that would only be a subset to further emphasize what Main Street's working on.
Well, I agree with you. If we can come up with a plan, I just want a plan.
Yeah.
I got a plan.
I don't want to do
That's all I
something.
have to say.
I just want a plan, and let's cut that, and some rationale for the plan. That somebody's done a little more research than it's, we're not alone. we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Other.
Well, it doesn't, Megan Fletcher, it doesn't sound like under any circumstance you would welcome an unstaffed welcome center.
No, I didn't say that.
You just did.
No.
And then when Mavis offered to fill it with volunteers, you said we're too small, nobody can do that, we're, everybody else
Stay
failed.
for a couple of years, then people will give up on it. That's okay.
But that's okay if we get a couple of years in and under us and teach people about the town and give them some place to stand when they're not outside going to the bathroom and give them some place to learn about the experiences in town. It's worth.
So try it out.
It can be beyond just brochures.
If it doesn't work, they can rent it to an accountant.
People are not gonna go in that little building, they're gonna be on their phone.
Well, they act past that, but I gotta tell you, if it's raining outside,
Why are they asking me?
also old people like rat cars.
Yep, your reception.
Seriously.
I don't have a problem with doing it. I just want some rationale behind it and, and an idea about it. And if that's fine if the council wants to do that, but I just want some facts that would
Well,
work.
it just seems like I'm gonna spend my time doing it, and it seems like
I got it, but
I'm up there that doesn't
No.
want it.
well, no, that's not true.
I have,
Sorry,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Ray.
is there a sort of a hybrid system using technology that is digitally based, so somebody, you don't have to have a human in there, but you come in and you interact with maybe a touch screen to inform the tourist of where to go and what
That's
activities.
exactly. that's
Well, I
exactly
Don't
what
actually have
it's
to living
about.
a person there, but
We need a budget on that. Yeah, I agree with you.
so maybe there's like,
Yeah, lots of tourists.
We already,
some type of,
paid for it. There's something called Visit Widget that Chincoteague's using that,
Right.
we're looking at. It's got the touch screen. It's also an app.
Restaurants, museum.
Yeah, we're-
you're not dependent on a person being,
right, that's
So,
exactly it.
I don't know, during the day,
Well,
all day.
I'm not trying, I'm not.
10 to 3, because the sidewalks roll up at 3 o'clock in this town.
Yeah, but that is hard to find someone.
It means there are 7 days a week.
Visitors come at 5, and there's nobody there.
Visitors.
Two-
that come to
But that
check
way
in.
you avoid the responsibility of someone being there to staff it.
She's going to do it.
I think she's gonna get tired.
About a week.
And to mention a town resident who is serious old. I think that today is Agnes Hancock's 102nd birthday. She's 102. So happy birthday, Agnes.
Well, I am not, I'm not trying to shoot down, I don't have, I think I just need to see some rationale and we'll give it a try for what, which, justify what we're gonna try to do, how much it's gonna cost, but to back up, I think the point is we wanted three bathrooms, correct?
Great.
And then some, obviously, there have to be,
And those are all. They're not male, they're not female, they're.
right, the
they're
unisex.
families. We call them
And then
down.
we're gonna, and then the front area is gonna stay the same, and then the back area would be an area as well, so we can. So to move forward, we've got a bunch of designs out there that we've looked at, so how do we wanna,
Can I suggest that even with this one, that we go with Joy's idea of the welcome center being on this side, reduced in size and leaving this room as a possibility for rent?
One.
I don't know why the town needs to be in the business of renting.
There's a room here.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
about the size of the existing room that you.
Almost exactly, yes.
Well, can we look, I don't wanna spend, I don't think the council's gonna wanna sit around and draw, look at every door, but can we have I think we had a little committee before, can we look at it again in the next couple of days?
3 bathrooms.
And we'll get back to, we'll come up with we'll get.
Shows
It's already working.
because you have 2 interior bathrooms. You need-
Which one?
Okay.
So
you're going with 3 then.
Yeah.
question. So if there is the pink area. That would be the conference room. And a bathroom to it.
No, that's an office.
Well, they were moving the office in the back, that way you don't have to cut a door through. And you can keep the electrical panel, and then the office connects with the with the main street. So their office would be in the back and people would walk around the back.
And this bathroom.
And you just move the
would
slide
have
the bath,
doorway.
you just slide the bathrooms.
Bathroom.
Instead of having the bathrooms, 3 bathrooms in the back, you just slide everything up one room. That's just an idea, yeah.
Okay, so then I'm confused.
But I haven't drawn, the bathrooms have not been drawn in here. Okay, and the doors, and that's.
But she's asking about access to a bathroom.
From the outside.
Yeah, there would be an access to a bathroom here, up here where this hall is.
So that,
Would be interior access.
so there would be one interior access bathroom that whoever's in the purple part and who's ever in
Blue
the
part,
blue part
and have used, yeah.
would use.
Right, and then you could possibly, if you could divide that and put 2 bathrooms, there'd be 4 bathrooms in the building, or you could have it so that the door.
That was the problem with ADA.
Yeah, it
When
would
we
be
split
ADA.
it, when we split that in half,
It's not big.
They don't have to be ADA qualified, they don't have.
not all of them, but the interior does.
Well, we can make the outdoors. Well, the other option is to make 1 bathroom and have 2 doors, which I'm not a big fan of. But when it's, you could lock this one most of the time, so that when you're not having a special event, the outdoor was always locked and the indoor was locked. And then when you had an event, you unlock the outdoor and then, lock the, indoor, nobody would be inside. So that way you get your 3 exterior bathrooms.
We had that one in here.
Yeah, but I need that, we don't have to, we can look at that. But, so we're kind of agreed that we're gonna get 3 exterior bathrooms that are handicap accessible. Or
One is-
one
But
is,
the third one doesn't have to be,
right,
so we could probably squeeze that one down and make the interior one
A separate
ADA,
right,
and that would probably fit.
right,
Because there was no 5-foot circle in the Fraser plan.
right,
This is awfully close to the Fraser plan
right,
if we make the exterior smaller.
right.
Does that kind of fit where you
Yeah.
wanted to?
I think so. I think
So-
yeah.
Coming down the right-hand side. Would be office in the back.
Yeah, the office would be in the back. They'd go in this, it wouldn't have to cut another door, would be in the back, yeah. So that would be a little suite back there, would be an office and a conference room
The existing door.
with the existing door and existing, you don't have to move you don't have to do anything to that area. And I think Main Street has indicated they would help, renovate some of that area. Do some
And
stuff. then you have an office in the front that if you ever wanted to do something with as well. You could do, yeah. I mean, the other option was that the Main Street's, the office was up here, which was kind of weird, you come through and there was a door on the side. But I think if we create a nice corridor here, which we're gonna do, an outdoor corridor with a nice walk, with getting back to the parking, and they hang a shingle out, people would come around to the back, and that's not as much, problem. So,
I think I got it.
yeah,
Okay.
All right. I'll work with Mike tomorrow.
yeah, we can,
Just another question to clarify. Janet. Is what you were saying. That Main Street would want to have that space rent free? Or that Main Street would want the town to subsidize the rent to the same rent that you're paying now?
Cindy could probably speak to this, as better than I, but I prefer Cindy start that answer.
And my suggestion is that, given the fact that Anacog supports Main Street at the lowest level of any Main Street in the state. For instance, Cape Charles supports their Main Street with $90,000 a year.
And they're Cape Charles.
Yes,
they're the ones that are going down there.
yeah. I mean, they have about the same population though. I know that they have better revenues than we do, but still, I mean, we're not asking for 90,000 a year. I think that the town could provide space to Main Street in recognition of a group of volunteers that has worked together effectively and has brought resources to the town that should be supported by the town. So that's my thinking on it and my proposal.
Right.
Yeah, and they're not asking for, I mean, I guess there'd be some, if the town wants to do something else, to the property, they're not asking for any more it's not gonna cost the town anything else except for deferring what they else that they do with that. The room, yeah. All right, any other comments?
That's adjourned.
Okay.
We had an over under on this one. I guess I just won, so.
This square footage, I don't know what it is that about what Main Street is looking for all? the
Yeah.
square footage? Is that
Yeah,
what-
I think
Bay Area?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a big space.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
All right,
I move we adjourn.
I second,
second too.
Adios.
We will second that one.
and I
All
would
in
like
favor,
to say,
stand up.
I would like to say thank you for the water.
That was Nathan. She was the thoughtful one.
You know, so we're gonna leave it here.
I think it'd been better with just alcohol.
Still early, man. Still early.
Next week.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for organizing it, Matt.
Yeah, see you, man.
You see the